We are in Austin for Consensus with Genzio, and today I'm gathered with Piers from TradingView. Hi, Piers.
Hi, Mia. Good to see you.
How is Consensus going for you so far?
So far, so good. A lot of back-to-back meetings. Thankfully, the conference center is enormous. So in Dubai, where we saw each other last, there was this constant battle of trying to figure out whether or not people were Jumeirah, Palm, or various other part. So thankfully, everything is very centralized, and that's been very helpful for meetings. But yeah, so far, so good.
Yeah, Austin is very concentrated. I feel like this is a good city for a conference for some reason, despite the heat. It would be the downside. For what reason did you think Consensus would be good for you to come and attend out of all the conferences?
Yeah, I mean, Consensus specifically is kind of a mainstay for TradingView. We've worked with CoinDesk for many years, so it's always cool to come back and support. We don't really sponsor conferences. We're not like big brands or anything like that. But we always have the team come and
You're more low key.
We do. We try to be a little low key, but at the same time, it's funny. I'll often wear a TradingView badge or TradingView branded T-shirt, and people will basically tackle me to the ground and start asking questions about like when can I get this indicator or this tool or something like that. So it's always fun.
Comes with the conference.
It comes with the conference in general, yeah. But we work with a lot of good exchanges here as well. Bullish now, the new owners of CoinDesk and Consensus is a great partner to us, and so we've been happy to support them as well.
It's amazing. I don't know how you got into crypto, so can you share a little bit of your story?
Origin stories. Yeah. I mean, I guess my original origin story started back in 2015 when the founder of my previous company introduced me to Barry Silbert. And Barry at the time was just setting up DCG very early. And
what year was it?
2015.
Okay.
I think fall of 2015. And so my previous company, we had a conference actually out in San Diego, and we invited Barry to speak. He was actually extremely busy at the time, obviously trying to buy as much crypto as he possibly could. And so he sent his number two, who was Meltem, and more or less, Meltem and I became fast friends. And I mean, since then we've thick as thieves, I think, created a pretty good group in New York. And so, she definitely pulled me into the mix. And since then, I mean, TradingView came out of nowhere and basically scooped me up from my previous company as GM and has been very supportive of our efforts in crypto in general. And so, I mean, since then, we've, integrated 39 exchanges into TradingView, and we continue to kind of pull as much crypto data as possible. So I've always been, kind of involved from a corporate perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
From a personal perspective, I've always had some exposure, but I don't think that it's kind of, I'm not a maxi, I'm very happy and had kind of like more sensitive kind of conservative perspective, but clearly you have to have some exposure, especially in, kind of the cycle that we're in. So it's been great to, be involved as well.
What year did you join TradingView?
I joined in 2019, so right before the first meme stock mania and kind of the first wave of insanity. We integrated the first Bitcoin data feed API from Mt. Gox in 2016, before Mt. Gox went under. But yeah, TradingView has been pulling market data for crypto since the earliest days, early days. So yeah.
You're raised in New York. Were you born there?
No, I was born in California.
Okay.
I'm a California boy through and through. Can't deny it. And I've lived in New York 13 years now, so it's definitely my home. But I always go back. It's the best, and it's quite interesting because crypto has a very large West Coast contingent. Whereas fintech in my previous world that I worked in, no real West Coast fintech, I'd say. So it's great to like go back to California and visit a lot of companies there that are like crypto native and very, very like competitive in the market. And then a lot of the major VCs that we work with every day are also out in the Bay Area. So it's been great because now I can kind of, afford to go back and forth versus fintech. It all happens in New York, so there's no reason to go back to California. Yeah.
Do you focus more in the US, or do you go to Asia, Europe?
Well, as you know, I mean, we went to Dubai, but yeah, I'm all over the world. We now are hiring in APAC specifically because it's a challenge for me to get all the way over there.
Okay.
But we have a global team. We have about 800 people, and so they are distributed across 26 different countries. So if you go to South Africa, I'll connect you with somebody. If you go to Brazil, we have a team there. South Korea,
Nice.
Japan. We really do believe in kind of the remote first mentality. And even before the pandemic, we were hiring people internationally as well. But we're definitely understaffed in Asia, I would say. It's very clear and apparent that a lot of traders are kind of having their what we call the E-Trade moment. So in the 90s in the US, like E-Trade was the first digital stockbroker, and basically retail investors had their first kind of like realization that they could invest themselves rather than calling up a broker, which is how most of the world still works, by the way. Like if you
Yeah.
actually want to buy a stock today, you call somebody and they physically put it in order for you. It's insane. But so a lot of the rest of the world has started to have that E-Trade moment, and not just in crypto, but in other assets as well. So we are definitely understaffed in a lot of regions that have gone from absolutely non-existent to being top 10 countries overnight. India specifically has become very, very interested in crypto, options, and equities. And as a result, it went from probably like our top 30 country 3 years ago to our number one country today. So it's our single largest trafficked geography of all the countries we work with. So as a result, we are scrambling to keep up and hiring aggressively in many of the regions.
TradingView is obviously huge. You really wear the shirt when it comes to representing. What about it that really makes you feel like, like it aligns with you?
Interesting question. I think so. From a traditional kind of financial services background, which is kind of where I was raised, if you will, what you've come to learn over time is that many companies have very little interest in creating very easy to use, free, and intuitive products. Most financial services companies would love to rip you off as much as they can, but within reason, right? So, if a broker can charge you $50 per transaction, they 100% will. And a lot of exchanges today, still charge very, very high fees, and it's just a symptom of the cycle, right? But for me, historically, before TradingView, I worked at a company called StockTwits as well, which is all about democratizing investment advice and investment research. And TradingView is all about democratizing investing tools, right? So, previously, if I wanted Mongolian commodities data, I would have to go to a individual exchange and basically create a subscription license, and the average cost would be something between $2,000 and $3,000 a month to subscribe to that type of data set. TradingView now provides Mongolian commodities data for free. And so this is kind of like an industry shift that we've been really a big part of. And a lot of folks have now kind of readjusted their pricing to kind of reflect what we think of as like the modern standard, which is data and information should be as free as possible. In some cases, it can't be completely free for various reasons. There's a lot of regulations in place around that. But it does generally align with my philosophy that if I'm an individual investor, I would love to have all the tools and information that the average institutional investor has. The simple reality is the way the system is set up does not really allow for that, and so we've tried to play a small role in leveling the playing field, such that even if I'm a random young investor in Nebraska, right? I want to give that person as much as they possibly can get, such that they have a fighting chance in investing successfully. And so that was really their philosophy when they brought me in. And it was an interesting one because, I'm not the CEO, right? I took over to basically become the general manager in the front-facing side of the house. But it's a big ask to be the personality or the guy who's out there every day. But the philosophical kind of mindset of TradingView is really what gives me comfort in being like, yeah, this is totally reasonable. I can align with what we want to do, and the founders are very, very aligned with my mission in terms of kind of bringing this to everybody. And so it's made the journey quite peaceful, I would say, for the last 5 years. Yeah.
Was it an easy decision when someone presents you something like this? Did you have a few days to think, or was it like from the beginning you're like, yeah, this makes sense?
Yeah, no, it took some time.
Okay. It's a big decision.
Yeah, no. My previous company, I also worked there for about 4 years. And I basically stepped away for personal reasons. I didn't actually think I was going to go back into investing tech in general. I thought I'd possibly go back to California, maybe work in more. My background's actually in politics, so working in environmental standards and protections for the state of California. And so I had some interest in potentially going back and changing career paths. TradingView found me basically on a beach in Mexico, and I was taking my sweet time thinking about the next step. And they, pursued me for, I think in total, probably about a month and a half before I decided to make the leap. So but I'm very happy in my decision. Yeah. But for something big like that, it's important to really think, not just on a personal level, but from a company level. Is what you bring to the table the right fit for the company? I think a lot of people just get offered jobs and think, wow, it's a great job, but you got to think about where the company is in that life cycle, and if the two do align, then it really does make sense to jump on it.
I guess like having a background and interest in politics comes very useful in this industry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because then you end up like you have insight, and then you end up having genuine interest in reading more about it, which helps, a lot.
Yeah, no. I mean, staying on top of current affairs allows you to be very much in the zeitgeist of current conversations or topical conversations. We particularly aren't a political organization anyway ourselves, but clearly we have a vested interest in making information more free and accessible, and that often runs into regulation and a lot of the regulatory kind of limitations, if you will, for the industry. And so we're a big proponent of making regulations much less aggressive for individual investors, such that again they can have access to as many markets as they possibly want. So that has always been a great mission of us, and as a result, we do work with folks that are much more politically active, but we ourselves are very happy being kind of on the sidelines, but definitely a big supporter, if you will, from just people that we know are really working towards a better vision, if you will, for investing in the future.
Yeah. Do you think like the elections now will help the current state of things in crypto? Yeah.
Well, I think so. I'll take off my TradingView hat because again, we definitely don't play either sides of the arena, if you will. I think in general for crypto, it's kind of challenging to me, again, from a background in politics, for a issue to become so uniquely political. I think in general in the U.S. especially, once a interest aligns with a political party, you really you basically disenfranchise a large population of otherwise very strong supporters. And so certain people feel differently. I know that Ryan Selkis actually had a debate yesterday with a counterpart about his position on Trump versus Biden. I think in general, it seems like an opportunity, if you will, to align with a certain political party that's open to your ideas. But then the simple reality is that if you become aligned with that party permanently, are you then opting into whatever that party brings to the table? So say, say our candidates today are maybe not super extreme one way or the other, but say in the next election cycle, they are. If crypto is naturally aligned with one of those parties, then it's naturally aligned with the current state of affairs for that candidate, which can be a big challenge, I think, especially if there are less savory candidates that come to the table. So I've always been a big fan of being apolitical when it comes to issues like this. And TradingView, again, I mean, is very happy being kind of a provider to everybody, right? We would never take a side. And so I think that it's interesting because I think a lot of people want it to become a political issue, but it seems a bit maybe short-sighted or kind of like a temporary strategy versus, is this a long-term kind of sustainable approach to being like very deeply involved in politics? Who's to say? But really not my place to make a like a public statement of any kind. A public
statement, yeah. Obviously, like everyone has a personal opinion, and yeah, oftentimes it's better to keep it
to yourself.
Yeah, so people don't just come and just starts the debate on Twitter. What could go wrong? So how could the elections play out in a way that would make things turn the opposite way for crypto?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like a very simple scenario would be, say, if Trump were to lose the election, but the core base of kind of supporters of crypto have all very much aligned with say, the Republican Party directly. Now, the question would be posed to the Democrats, which is, now that we have won the next election cycle, do we have any interest in actually working with people on the crypto side of things? In this case, you potentially could create a very strong, I guess, not incumbent, but basically somebody who is not interested in working with crypto whatsoever. And that's a huge setback for us as an industry. So, and likewise, if Trump were to win the election and crypto has aligned with those interests, that seems very good for crypto within the next 4-year election cycle. But he can't run again. There's no additional term after that. And so then we have to go to the next candidate and say, hey, I think that there's actually a lot for us to be doing together, in that next 4-year cycle. But maybe that candidate is actually very anti-crypto. But since, the actual crypto organization aligns with the Republican Party, we have to then negotiate with that person. And so I think that in both scenarios, they can be very challenging for the industry at large. Things that can go right, I mean, if, for example, we align with the right candidate and the next 4 years does go well and we actually do see kind of a teardown in a lot of regulation or a lot of kind of monetization of the SEC as an example. I mean, I think those are all good things. But I think that those were destined to happen regardless. I mean, based on the people that are involved in these conversations, like Coinbase is very apolitical. They have no interest in taking sides, but they're very happy to fight these fights very judiciously. And they really kind of narrow in on specific issues around securities law, et cetera. I mean, I think that is where we should be fighting fights, is in the arena of law versus the arena of politics. And I think that in general, we'll see if either scenario comes to pass. But it definitely does give me caution that we're so quick to jump into a political arena when really what we're talking about is securities law, and it should be kind of litigated as such, if you will.
I'm gonna have to wrap it up.
Sure.
It's been very interesting. I could keep talking on this for longer, for sure. For everyone watching, where can they find you?
Well, find me on Twitter. That's the easiest. Crosby Ventures. It's a handle that I've had since I was a kid. In terms of on TradingView, we have a great social network, so you can always DM me there as well. And then for anybody interested in TradingView, the website is tradingview.com. Simple as that.
Piers, thank you.
Thanks, Mia.